Stella Rosa Royale is always invited to the neighborhood potluck and the backyard barbecue and Sunday dinner with the family. That's because Stella Rosa Royale has a bold, semi-sweet red berry flavor and more alcohol than other Stella Rosa wines. That pairs well with any food. So grab a seat next to Stella Rosa Royale. Food's best friend, best served chilled.
Celebrate Stella Rosa.
Celebrate responsibly.
Across America, it's The Weekend with Joe Pags. To talk to Joe, call 800-501-7080. And now, The Weekend. Here's Joe Pags.
All right, glad to have you. Thanks a lot for stopping by. There's a lot going on, lots to get to. Glad to be back today. Appreciate Brian filling in last week. I just got back from New York, and man, are my arms tired. See what I did there? It's an old joke. If you're not old enough, you don't know the joke. But, yeah, spent some time in New York. Went up to the city, spent some time there, some relatives there. Went to upstate New York where I used to do television news on WRGB in Albany, Schenectady, Troy. It's actually in Niskayuna. And it was a good time. Great to see everybody. Great to chill out a little bit. But, man, New York is messed up. And I say that out of love. New York is messed up. It just is. This is a city and a state that is regarded by the world as a beacon or an example of what America is. And I'm here to tell you, New York is not an example of what America is. It is so horribly mismanaged and misrun. You've got Bill de Blasio, who's an absolute mess, and as my friend Curtis Lewa says, is probably high on dope just about all day. I guess he smokes a lot of ganja. But this guy out there making decisions that don't make any sense. He's out there shooting hoops. He's out there playing soccer as he's coming up with new mandates about where you can and can't go. Then, of course, you've got Andrew Cuomo, who's just, I guess, a pig. 11 women saying that he sexually assaulted or harassed them from his official capacity as the governor of New York. The attorney general, who's an ally of his, actually came out while I was there and talked about the charges against him. But let me start in a much simpler place. We'll get into all that. We also have Representative Matt Gaetz on the program today and much more. But let's get into something that affects us all. Do you have any idea whether you're supposed to get the vaccine or not? And if so, why? Do you have any idea if you're supposed to mask up? And if so, why? And let's go back, nary a year and a half ago. The guy that we all trusted so much, Dr. Anthony Fauci. This guy came out and was talking about coronavirus. We called it the Wuhan novel coronavirus back then. That's what it was, right? And then we called it coronavirus. Then they decided to call it COVID-19. There are some people who are confused about what that means. It means corona, vi, which is virus, de, which means disease, and 19 means the year we discovered it, COVID-19. So that took the Wuhan, China angle out of it. And then we were told that it was started in something called a wet market or wet markets in China. A wet market in China is where they basically slaughter animals on the side of the road to give you food. You buy it, they slaughter it, it's right there on the side of the road. I'd never heard the term wet market before, and you can lie if you want, but you never heard it either. It somehow started in the wet market because a bat somehow was eating some of the meat or something and then bit a human being or some crap, and that was the story they were telling us. Now, the early guidance, the early recommendations were you should stay 6 to 8 feet apart. Okay? 6 to 8 feet apart. And we're going to call that social distancing. If you don't want to stay 6 to 8 feet apart and you're closer than 6 to 8 feet apart, you should wear a mask. Now, it wasn't 6 to 8 feet apart and wear a mask. It was 6 to 8 feet apart, no mask. Closer proximity than that, wear a mask. That was the guidance. That was the recommendation. Period. End of story. Have a nice day. Fauci, interviewed by 60 Minutes, literally said it would be silly to see everybody walking around with masks on. He said that. So I'm going, okay, you want to wear a mask? Cool. I don't want to. I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to breathe while wearing a mask. I just do. I had to wear a mask all day 2 days ago because of the flying around the country, right? And it sucked. I hate wearing a mask. You probably do too. And I don't know about you, but man, have you smelled your own breath? Damn, you know what I'm saying? Even if you brush your teeth, your own breath stinks. Damien, are you down with that? I mean, you don't want to smell your own breath all day, do you?
Nah, I'm good on that.
Thank you. I'm just putting it out there. Normal human beings don't want to smell what they just breathed out. There's a reason you're getting rid of it. And why would we want to breathe in the carbon dioxide we just breathed out when we actually need oxygen to survive? It is not an ideal situation. And again, Fauci originally said, it'd be silly if you all wore a mask. Then he said, go on that cruise if you want to. Then the former Surgeon General, he also said, hey, masking, you don't need to wear a mask. And then he disappeared. We didn't see him on the camera for a while. So the early guidance didn't make any sense. We tried to follow it the best we could, but it didn't make any sense. And then you started hearing about Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed was an operation put in place by the Trump administration to get vaccines ready and available faster than we've ever seen. And they did that. I'm not a vaccine guy, so I didn't go and get it. But those of you who wanted the vaccine, those of you who needed the vaccine, those of you who feel because you were at high risk, it made sense to you, you were able to go and get it. What did we hear from the Democrats? I'm not taking that vaccine. Are you taking that vaccine? I'm not taking it. If it's presented by Trump, I'm not taking it. No way I'm taking it. Kamala Harris said it. Joe Biden said it. Down the line, the Democrats lined up to say they weren't going to take the Trump vaccine. That's how stupid it was. I'm like, okay, well, if you're not going to take it, I'm certainly not going to take it. As soon as Biden took over, nothing changed in the vaccines. You got 3 of them. Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. You got 3 of them. And now everybody's taking the vaccine. In fact, you should take the vaccine if you feel that you're at risk. In fact, you should take the vaccine because I said take the vaccine. In fact, you not taking the vaccine is killing my children. This is how dumb the messaging has gotten. Where we are today is slowly but surely, huge swaths of society are starting to require you show proof you got a vaccine. Is the vaccine FDA approved? No, it's not. The vaccine has emergency usage approval. It's not full FDA approval. The FDA has not gone through and done the usual clinical studies to find out what the effects are on human beings. Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, has said he's met with, and actually did a big thing, it's on video, he met with families that say they had negative effects, side effects from the vaccines. This is anecdotal data where real human beings in America had adverse effects from the vaccines. They didn't want to take it. They took it. They had bad effects. Most people, I'm told, who take it don't have ill or adverse effects. But why is it? Let's break that down. No politics here. Simple, very direct questions from an American on your radio today. What's the impetus to take the vaccine? What does taking the vaccine do for you? What do you get out of taking the vaccine? Will it stop you from getting it? Originally they said yes. Now they're saying no, you can still get it even if you're fully vaccinated. Okay? Will it stop you from spreading it? Nope. You can still get it, you can carry it, and you can spread the disease. Oh, okay. Why am I getting the vaccine? Well, if you get the vaccine, your symptoms, if you get COVID-19, will be much less deadly. All right, it's a pretty good reason to get the vaccine. Okay. And that appears to be something that they all agree with. Because remember, Fauci said you can still get it, you can spread it. CDC said you can't get it if you have the vaccine and you can't spread it. Then the CDC changed its mind. Oh, by the way, the World Health Organization said children under the age of 12 shouldn't get the vaccine. Suddenly that went away. We don't hear about that anymore. Now everybody wants children under 12 to get the vaccine too. So the vaccine doesn't stop me from getting it. It doesn't stop me from spreading it. But it helps me to survive it if I get it. All right. That seems pretty cut and dried. I've decided, because it's emergency usage only, and I've never gotten a flu vaccine, and that I'm young enough and healthy enough that I'll survive if I get COVID-19, I'm not going to get the vaccination. If I get it, if I suffer, and if I die from it, those of you who don't like conservatives can dance on my grave as I've seen you do for others who have died with COVID-19. But I don't choose to get the vaccination. As a free, liberated American, I should not be forced through peer pressure or persecution or prosecution to take a vaccine that only has emergency usage. This is basically an experimental vaccine right now. But again, if you've got a comorbidity, you're overweight, you've got high blood pressure, you've got diabetes, you've got a pre-existing condition, your doctor says you should take the vaccine, listen to your doctor. Take the vaccine if you want to. I'm not going to guilt you out of not taking it. Take it if you want to. But here's the problem I have at the bottom of this entire story. I don't want the government to protect me from me. Again, my getting the vaccine doesn't stop me from getting it. My getting the vaccine doesn't stop me from spreading it. So telling me that it's the right thing to do for the better good to take the vaccine is a lie. It's not stopping me from getting it and spreading it. Also, we haven't gotten really good medical studies back that say if you've already had COVID-19, can you get it again? We're hearing about people who've had it and they're getting it again. So we're not getting really good guidance or recommendations. Notice the words I use there, guidance and recommendations, because that's what the CDC does. It gives guidance and it makes recommendations. It doesn't tell us what we have to do. Now, businesses and hospitals and government agencies are all deciding because of the guidance, we're going to this, that, and the other. The guidance is not your doctor. The guidance should not be telling you what you have to or should do. That's up to you and your doctor, your medical professional. That's up to you and your family. So why the hard push? All of a sudden, the dope head, de Blasio, New York, says you can't go to the gym, eat indoors, or go to an indoor event if you're not fully vaccinated. Well, that's really intelligent, dummy. So if you get healthy by working out, by going to the gym, you're less at risk of getting really bad symptoms from COVID-19. You can fight it off. So he's decided to take that away unless you've gotten a vaccination that only protects you from you. The vaccine doesn't protect anybody in society from you. Now we're hearing about United Airlines needs every employee to be fully vaccinated. Every federal employee suddenly has to be fully vaccinated. There's now conversation about the airlines requiring that you show proof of vaccination. Why? This merely is protecting me from me. Let me make my decision as a free liberated American, and if I die, you can laugh at me. Why should some government agency or entity or king or queen decide that I have to take a shot in my arm to make them feel better about it? Oh, I've also heard some lunacy that, well, if you're fully vaccinated, you have a better chance of stopping the Delta variant. Well, how so? How does my getting vaccinated stop the Delta variant? I still don't have any idea where the Delta variant came from. If I get vaccinated, the Delta variant says, oh, damn, he's vaccinated against the original disease. We better not attack him. It sounds more likely that the Delta variant came because we're all getting vaccinated. The original disease is not harming you the way that it could have. So now there's some mutation to get around the vaccination. That makes more sense to me. Wow, I'm just a doofus on the radio. So I want your thoughts on this. 1-800-501-7080. 1-800-501-7080. Go to joepags.com if you'd rather email, or you can go to joepags.com, click on that video link on the top, and that's going to take you to the live video. You'll see my big fat head too. But the question is very simple. Do you think the government should be able to force us to get a vaccination that doesn't protect anybody from us? It just protects us from us. And do you think there should be these rules about not going to a gym or eating indoors or going to an indoor activity or flying on a plane or working for the federal government? Should they be allowed to take away your ability to make a living for your family and to support yourself if you don't take a jab in the arm? They're forcing a medical procedure on you with an experimental drug that has not been fully FDA approved yet. Your thoughts, 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. Stay here. All right, glad to have you. Welcome to the program. Thanks. Appreciate you stopping by. Lots going on. It's the weekend with Joe Pags. 1-800-501-7080. Phone lines are locked up. A lot of people want to be heard today. So go to joepags.com, joepags.com. Click on email. Send me an email. Your thoughts are always welcome there. Also, while you're there, you can follow your favorite social media. And if you're listening live, we do it 9 a.m. to noon on Saturday Pacific time, noon to 3 p.m. Saturday Eastern time. Click on that live video link and you can see me do the show as well as hear me. Later on, we'll have Matt Gaetz on, U.S. Representative District 1 Republican out of the great state of Florida, and also Carol Hooven, who is a lecturer over at Harvard, who dares tell the truth about testosterone and estrogen, and because of that, she's finding herself in a lot of hot water. We talked to her as well. Let me go to the phone lines and find out where you are on the misinformation we keep on getting about the vaccine, the vaccinations, why take it, why not take it. And believe me, I was in New York for a week. Every other commercial is about get vaccinated. The television personalities are all telling you get vaccinated. Everybody's saying get vaccinated. That's somehow going to stop the Delta variant, which doesn't make any sense. Let me go to Amber in Colorado. Amber, what's going on? Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. You're on the air. What's happening?
Well, I was just listening to your radio show on the way to the store this morning, and I just think it's the government is just really trying to throw a power play over the entire United States and demanding a vaccination, saying where we can eat, where we can work out, what we can do. And I don't think it needs to be necessarily a political side. It's just basic human race and what's okay, and giving us the freedom of choice of what we want to do with our bodies and our health.
Well, it's interesting because it does get political. The left in this country believes in choice when it comes to abortion and things like that. They don't believe in choice when it comes to a vaccination. It's very, very strange. Amber, I think you're right. I think it is a power play. I think the federal government is trying to say we can make all of these millions of people get vaccinated if we want. We can make all these millions of people wear masks if we want. I mean, think about it. While wearing a mask, are you talking to people as much as you used to? Of course not. So if we're masking it up and we're not talking to each other and we're not sort of finding out the things that we agree on and our differences, then we can't progress as a country. We have to go to Papa and Mama government or King and Queen government to give us everything that we need and want. Any communication there's going to be is going to be from the federal government. I do believe in divide and conquer as their cause. I think the central government has gained so much power and is utilizing that power and congealing that power through making us wear masks and get vaccinations and so on, to the point to where they've taken it too far. But again, keep in mind, Rahm Emanuel came up with that phrase, never let a serious crisis go to waste. Is coronavirus real? Of course it is. Is it killing people? Yes. It's horrible. Did it come from a wet market? Probably not. Probably came from the Wuhan Center for Virology. And it probably was created through some sort of gain of function that was funded by Fauci. Knowing all of that, if you feel that you're at risk and your doctor says get the vaccination, get it. I don't need Joe Biden, who's feeble at best, telling me that I have to get the jab in my arm if I don't feel I need it. And they haven't shown why that somehow is necessary for the community. It just sounds like a way to control me and to protect me from me. That doesn't make sense. More of your phone calls. People are riled up about this. 1-800-501-7080. Stay right here.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags.
All right, great to have you. Thanks. It is The Weekend with Joe Pags. 1-800-501-7080. 1-800-501-7080. Go to joepags.com, joepags.com, and follow your favorite social media there, news stories that we cover. I've got a featured video of the day. This video is about how Psaki, Circleback Psaki, the press secretary, is talking about the possibility of having to get vaccinated before you can fly on a plane, which is absolutely crazy to me. So go there and check that out. Also, if you're on social media, you all are, on the big ones, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, It's at Joe Talk Show, JoeTalkshow. Also on Getter, which is a new one, it's at Joe Talk Show. It's gettr.com, Joe Talk Show. On all the other ones you can think of, whether it's Telegram or Gab or Parler or whatever, it is Joe Pags, at Joe Pags. The account will always be verified. If it's not a verified account, but it's got my picture on it, or they say that they're me, they're not. It's got to be verified with the check mark. So go and follow on your favorite social media and spread the word about the program. I appreciate you guys doing that. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the hypocrisy and the flip-flop information we're getting from the CDC, the NIH, and from the government when it comes to vaccinations. You got to get vaxxed. You shouldn't get vaxxed. Stop the Delta. The Delta came from here. The Delta didn't come from there. Don't say China. Say China. Wear a mask. Wear 2 masks. I have no idea what we're supposed to do. So I've got an idea. Let's all just be free, liberated Americans. And if you want to take the vaccination because it'll help you out. Look, a friend of mine emailed me yesterday. He said, I've got some comorbidities. A little overweight, got high blood pressure. I took the vaccination. I now have COVID-19, and my symptoms aren't as bad as they might have been. That's pretty interesting. So it works when it comes to cutting down the symptoms. Yes, you can still get it. Yes, you can still spread it. But this will help you get through it, according to him and according to other anecdotal data we have. But when people say, you're causing the spread of the Delta variant by not getting vaccinated, that doesn't make logical scientific sense. When people say you're the reason why coronavirus still exists, that doesn't make sense. The vaccinations aren't killing coronavirus. It's just making it less effective on humans. And that should be an individual decision. I don't know why that's controversial. I really don't. I have no idea. But I will go to the phone lines. Scuba Mike in New York. What's going on, Scuba?
Hey, how you doing, Joe? There's one thing I really have trouble wrapping my head around with this whole vaccination thing is how many people I see on TV, here on the radio, that are not doctors, that are giving what I consider to be medical advice. Now, I go by the nickname Scuba Mike because I'm a PADI scuba instructor. Haven't worked in the field for quite some time, but once a PADI instructor, always a PADI instructor.
Okay.
Anytime anybody asked me medical advice, and it was always about seasickness medication, whether they should take it or not, I was required by PADI to tell them I am not a doctor. I cannot prescribe medication. I can't recommend what you should or should not take. You could be allergic. You could be whatever.
Right.
You need to talk to your doctor, and between you and him, come up with a plan that works for you. So how can all these people get away with saying, take the vaccine?
Well, I don't know. And when they say take the vaccine, you're getting 5 different reasons why you should take it. You know, I was in New York recently, as I said, Mike, and nonstop on radio and television, they are force-feeding you, take the vaccine. It's nonstop in that state, in that city specifically.
Yeah, I know, and it's really annoying, too, because these days I work at Walmart. Last week, the word came down that we got to put the masks back on. And like you, Joe, I hate wearing that thing. I got to do a lot of heavy work. We're lifting heavy cases, boxes of detergent, and I'm huffing and puffing. I hate wearing that thing on my face, especially when I know that it does nothing. I remember some time ago, a few months ago, a guy on a caller read the box on one of the mask boxes, and it said on there, this mask basically doesn't do anything. My sister's a medical professional, and she told me the paper masks that everybody wears, those blue ones, do nothing. You need the N95 mask, whatever that is. But it's just so maddening that now I have to, and I knew it was too good to be true. When they told us, I guess around Memorial Day weekend or whatever it was, that masks off if you got the vaccine, I said, this is not going to last. The politicians and the people in power, they love having us under their thumb, and they're going to miss it, and somehow they're going to come up with an excuse, put these things back on.
I got you, Mike. I always appreciate it. Open line now, 1-800-501-7080, 1-800-501-7080. It's true. The federal government, Biden specifically, by Independence Day, you should be able to be independent of the mask if you get the vaccination. They were trying to get people to take the vaccination, so how did they do it? They did it by saying you can no longer wear the mask. You can go without the mask if you get the vaccination. Then it was, well, if you're outside and you get the vaccination, you don't have to wear the mask. Inside, you should probably still mask it. We go, well, wait a second. Why are we taking it? What does the vaccination do? Because that was the lie. That was the big lie told to us first. We're going to get rid of the masks. All you have to do is get vaccinated. People lined up by the millions to get the vaccine. And then they were told, well, you should probably put the mask back on. You had one idiot from the CDC or something just the other day on CNN or MSNBC or some crappy network say something to the effect of parents should wear masks in their own houses if they're around their kids. I kid you not. If you're around your child in your house, you should put a mask on. Now, that's somebody who should not be getting taxpayer dollars in a career. That's somebody who is a complete loon. There's something wrong with that guy. Yet he said it, and the left just ate it up. Let me go back at it. It's 1-800-501-7080. JoePags.com. It's going to be line 3. And Stephen in Indiana. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
Living the dream, man. Let's go. What's happening?
Hey, man. All right. I was first against that vaccine. You know, it's just because it's experimental and it just makes no sense. But 2 years ago, I became immune compromised. Got hit with an autoimmune disease. It's very rare. It's called dermatomyositis. And
sorry to hear that.
So, yeah, in 3 days' time, I was bedridden for 8 months. But hey, I'm back on my feet now and we're doing good. So anyhow, I talked with my doctor, my rheumatologist. Said, Dr. Bell, what about this vaccine? And he said, get it. He said, get it. And so I took my doctor's advice. I got the vaccine, and I got both the Moderna, 2 of them. And about 14, 15 days after that, I just quit wearing my mask because fed up with it. I don't go nowhere. I don't go around nobody.
Right.
All I do is stay home. So anyhow, 4 days ago, I had sore throat and stuff, and my gland swelled up in my throat, and just woke up and I had a golf ball in my throat. And I was like, what the heck? And so I called my doctor. And then I test positive for COVID. And so since I'm immune compromised, I qualified for a antibody infusion.
Okay.
24 hours later, I got the antibody infusion, all in the same process. My wife and my 2 children, who I'm around and kiss all day, every day, got their test. All 3 tested negative.
Good.
And the only place I could have got that COVID from would have to be the hospital, in and out, going for my blood work and everything else. Because I live in the country, no work. But anyhow, so I had my infusion day before yesterday, and yesterday I felt like $1 million. Today I felt great. Point is, I got my vaccine. If I hadn't got the vaccine and I picked up COVID, being immune compromised already with this disease, I probably would be on a ventilator. I'm just thankful that right now I feel really like I just got a stifle, sore throat.
Right.
And, so for the people that are immune compromised, and I think the vaccine will save lives and has saved lives.
Well, Stephen, I hear you, and that's why I say if your doctor says take it, and I'm glad that you're healthy. If your doctor says take it, take it. If your doctor says because of these conditions you have your immune system compromised, then it made sense for you, good. Did it save your life? It might have, good. That's awesome. See, I'm not like the left. The left in this country and on planet Earth will tell you, I'm a vegetarian, and you shouldn't eat meat either. I'm like, listen, you want to get the vaccine, get it. If your doctor says this will be effective for you, get it. What do you run? Don't walk. I don't want it. Now, you should be as respectful of me, and I'm talking about Stephen specifically, I'm talking about those who are on the left. You should be as respectful of my decision as I'm being of yours. I'm not saying get rid of vaccines. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not saying vaccines don't work. I'm saying I don't need it. And I don't want the government to tell me that I have to take something that is only available through emergency usage to make them feel better about me taking the vaccine. It is never, ever going to be, in my estimation, the job of government to protect me from me. Stop it. It's that simple. I'm glad it worked for you. And there are plenty of stories out there where the vaccination did help. Absolutely. Pat, Virginia, talk to me. Hi.
Hi. I never hear anybody talk about taking hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D, vitamin C, quercetin as a preventative instead of getting the vaccine.
Well, I talked about it, and I got suspended on Twitter. You didn't hear all that?
Oh, I did. I did hear you. But I mean, I never hear anybody on the radio. They don't talk about it much, and of course, you never hear it on TV. I mean, that's what I'm doing, and I feel like that's protecting me,
Right.
Instead of getting the vaccine.
Yeah, they actually, there still is, and I appreciate you, there still is this push to act as though hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. Along with zinc and erythromycin, I'm not really sure how to say it, but there are 3 different medications that were used by Dr. Zelenko and Professor Reish from Harvard, I think, or Yale. They did this study, a real clinical study, that proved that hydroxychloroquine, along with zinc and something else, is effective when it comes to COVID-19. If you talk about that like I am right now, there are people who want to cancel me. They need you to take a vaccine, which is much more expensive, instead of the very inexpensive drugs that have been around for 65, 70 years. There are studies, this isn't me saying it, look the studies up by Reish. I think it's R-I-S-C-H. It could be R-I-E-S-C-H, the doctor's name or the professor's name. He's an epidemiologist. He did this research with Dr. Zelenko, and this protocol has helped people. But for some reason, because Trump said hydroxychloroquine works, that means that it was the devil. The devil. And you can't say that. You can't, again, I just did hashtag hydroxychloroquine works on Twitter, and Twitter suspended me until I deleted it. Then I got back on there and then complained about how Twitter suspended me. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, there are studies that suggest these things in combination will work. There are also studies that are in a preliminary that will say, like what Stephen just said, the vaccination works. Should be your decision. It should be your decision. It's not, look, I may have had COVID and don't have it anymore. I don't know. I know this. Nobody in a government role outside of my family or my doctor should have any say into whether I should consider the vaccine. And they are spending tons of money advertising why you should get it done. And then we go back to the original questions I asked at the top of this hour. What does the vaccine do? Can I still get it if I'm vaccinated? The answer is yes. Can I still spread it if I'm vaccinated? The answer is yes. Is the better good of the community helped out if I get vaccinated? The answer is no. If I can still get it and spread it, how is that helping anybody other than me? You're trying to force me to do something, get a medical procedure that I may not want. That doesn't make sense. 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. Keep it here. Glad to have you. The weekend with Joe Pags. Lots going on, lots to get to. I'm just reading over some of the comments over in my chat room. Make sure you stop by joepags.com and click on that Twitch link. It is on top of the page. Just click on that. It goes directly to my channel. You'll see my big fat head. Yes, I'm sporting the fedora today. I've got a really big head, though. I can't find a bigger fedora, which is interesting. This is a smaller one, but it fits okay. So we've got that going on, which is always nice. So what do you do when it comes to vaccinations? What do you do when it comes to people saying one thing, then changing it? When anybody questions Biden on, well, wait a second, you said you could take the mask off on the 4th of July. Now you're saying put it back on. And his response is always something really lame and really bad. And then there's some woman protecting him. That's it. Everybody out. Let's go. Let's go. Everybody out. Let's go. And there's always some woman there waiting to usher the media out of the room and to say, you know, you can't ask any more questions. This guy doesn't have a card that has an answer for him on there. It's a huge mess, and the American people deserve the truth. Tell the truth. If you still get it, you can still spread it. If getting vaccinated is causing the Delta variant, and I don't know that to be true, but I think it's a valid question, we should know these things. Tell us the truth and let us make an informed decision, because liberty and freedom are leaving this country very, very quickly. There are many of you listening right now who probably think getting vaccinated is stopping your neighbor from getting the disease. The information we have from the CDC, the NIH, from Fauci, and everybody else is that it doesn't stop you from getting the disease. We don't even have an answer to this question. If I've had it, can I get it again? We don't have a valid answer. If not, how long does the natural immunity last? And what is it really going to take to squash the disease? I think they're pretty simple questions. We're not getting any answers, that's for sure. Betsy, Colorado, come on. Betsy, you're on the air. Let's go.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
A comment and then a couple of comments.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, you asked the essential question, and it's really, really the most important one. What does this vaccine actually do? We don't know the answer to that. And if you don't do your due diligence and you don't educate yourself, you're playing Russian roulette by getting any vaccine. So as an example, I am a double HLA-DR4 genotype, which means I have the highest risk for vaccine damage and vaccine side effects. I know this because I've been tested. How many other people have been tested?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is, to be honest, so I haven't been tested for that.
That's right. Most people won't. I have a medical background. Most people won't. But these are the kinds of things that people need to be paying attention to rather than getting caught up in the fear-mongering that's going on around all of this. They need to be looking at what is it that we need to know about this and how do we navigate it.
Right.
And on the other side of that, your health information is a HIPAA-protected, it's HIPAA-protected information. That is federal law. It means that if someone comes to your door and asks you if you have been vaccinated in an attempt to try to pressure you into doing it, you tell them they have 2.5 seconds to beat the street. Otherwise, you're calling to have them arrested, because that federal law absolutely trumps governors, city, county, state level. It is your number one protection.
I got you, and I appreciate Betsy. I appreciate the call. The HIPAA thing is a little confusing, but what you're saying is not true. Somebody can ask you about your health, and you could say, "I'm not going to tell you." That's fine. HIPAA actually stops a third party from giving your health information out to somebody. It stops your doctor from giving out your health information without you knowing, the insurance company, your employer, the government, whatever. HIPAA is not where somebody can't ask you. They can. Now, can you have them arrested if they don't leave? Sure, if they're trespassing, but it has nothing to do with HIPAA. To be honest with you, I think there's a little bit of confusion about HIPAA and how it works, but you're right. The bottom line is this: HIPAA or not, our private medical history, our private medical concerns, the procedures that we get or don't get, those things are up to us. And the federal government should have no say. The local government should have no say. Somebody knocking on your door to ask you if you have the vaccine, it's crazy. And by the way, you ever notice that those who want us to get the vaccine and a vaccine passport are against voter ID? That's a little bit weird, isn't it? 1 hour in the bag. Let's keep it here. Coming back.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags. Across America, it's The Weekend with Joe Pags. To talk to Joe, call 800-501-7080. And now, The Weekend. Here's Joe Pags.
Hi, great to have you. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Lots going on. Bottom of this hour, it'll be District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida, Matt Gaetz. They talk about his new vodcast where he sits down and just hashes some stuff out. It's interesting because he's been accused of some pretty dastardly things, right? Matt Gaetz, the sex scandal and the sex trafficking and the child this and whatever, and none of it's come to fruition. In fact, he goes through in this vodcast and explains exactly what the allegations were, exactly what really happened, and exactly why these people are all doing a witch hunches to try to stop him. The Firebrand. The name of the vodcast or podcast is Firebrand, same name of his book, Firebrand. So Matt Gaetz at the bottom of the hour, we go through a lot of stuff, including the vaccine passports, including the infrastructure bill, which is not about infrastructure. We do all of that. Make sure you stick around for that. I want to start this hour with making agreements, making deals, shaking hands, having a contract, so on and so forth. Sounds boring, but it's not. Stick with me. When I went to college, I'm a saxophone player. I was a music major, voice minor, and I didn't have the money to pay for it. It was just a community college. I just didn't have it. I wasn't going to ask my parents for it. Although I had been working since I was 12, I just didn't have any money saved up to pay for tuition. So what I did was I learned a piece of music along with a piano accompaniment, and I went and I played in front of a jury, and I was able to get a full scholarship because I did it very well. The school benefited from my being there. That's what scholarships are really all about. Think about it. If you're a great athlete and you get an athletic scholarship, a full scholarship, that means that you're somehow going to help that college, that team, that sport win or give a better chance of winning. Therefore, the university or the college can make more money. If you aren't lucky enough to get a scholarship of some sort and you still want to go there, you can either pay out of your pocket, you could ask mom or dad for it or another relative, or you can get a student loan. The meaning of the word loan is to have use of something or to get something that you have every intention of giving back or paying back. This isn't complicated. Somehow, we now live in a day and age where you don't have to pay it back. It's just the same sort of thing with rent or a mortgage. For those who don't know, and maybe there are some listening who don't know, somebody owns a piece of property, whether it be an apartment, a townhouse, a duplex, a fourplex, a house, and they're not using it, so they're willing to rent it to somebody, which means you give access to the facility for the people to live there, eat there, spend time there, have a party there, whatever, and in return, they give you money every month. Let's say the rent is $1,000 a month. That means you get that usage of that product, that thing that somebody else owns, and you give them a fee every month, usually at the beginning of the month, for that usage for the next month. Well, COVID-19 hit. And with COVID-19 hitting, the left decided that you shouldn't have to pay your rent. In fact, you shouldn't have to pay your mortgage. I mean, hell, it wasn't just the left. The right decided that too. President Trump believed in that as well. But it was for a limited time. For some really dumb reason, we shut down the entire economy because of COVID-19. We never should have. We should have just protected those that we knew were at the most risk, and everybody else should have gone back to work because everybody's essential. The decision was made in the Trump administration to put a moratorium on evictions. Eviction, for those who don't know, is when you get kicked out of that house or that townhouse or that duplex or whatever because you're not paying rent. You can't just live free in somebody else's property. It just doesn't work that way. You had a contract. You had an agreement. Yes, COVID hit. There was a moratorium. Moratorium's up. Well, they extended it, and then it was up again on July 31st. The extending of the moratorium for evictions was challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that the CDC nor an administration has the ability to extend the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. Now, keep in mind, the reason why this was initially done is because people were not working and unemployment wasn't paying enough to cover their bills. Then, for some reason, states added more unemployment, the federal government added more unemployment, then we extended unemployment, then we started giving other benefits. Now we're going to send everybody a check, a stimulus check. Here's another stimulus check. We're just sending people money willy-nilly, and the landlord, who is the person who owns the property that you're renting, is going, yeah, but what about mine? Nobody's paying me rent. Well, we have bills to pay too. What about mine? So the moratorium ended on July 31st. What did Joe Biden do? He violated the Supreme Court ruling, and he said, well, I'm going to have the CDC give out a bunch of money, billions of dollars to people, and we're going to either pay those landlords or we're going to continue the moratorium illegally. Goes back to the college tuition thing as well. They're also pushing as hard as they can for forgiveness of the student loan you took out. How do you do that? How do you forgive the student loan that you agreed to do? You signed the contract. You said, yes, I'll use this money to get my education, then I'll pay it back. Well, but PAGS, people have $100,000 or $200,000 in student loan debt. Right. They took it on. They agreed to it. They signed the dotted line. Unless you could show me where a gun was put to their head and they were under duress forced to sign the student loan papers, they got to pay it back. But now we live in a day and age where you don't have to pay it back. And you don't have to pay your mortgage. And you don't have to pay your rent. Do anything you want. And is this really people looking out, the government looking out, to protect those who are in dire straits and can't pay their rent? No. All sorts of money flowing in. A lot of people are back to work, still don't have to pay their rent. It's very weird. So why are they doing it? They're doing it for further power and control. I talk about this all the time. The central government under liberals, under Democrats, wants to expand, be larger than it ever has been before. They want to be your God, your religion. They want to be your teacher, your educator. They want to be your landlord, the person that you either have to or don't have to pay rent to. They want to be the person who provides you food, person who provides you clothing, person who provides, or the entity that provides you transportation. They want to be the be-all, end-all, including God and your religion. Because if that's all happening, they're providing it all, they can say when election day comes, hey, keep in mind who gave you that transportation, who gave you that free lunch at school, who gave you that debt forgiveness from your college debt. Remember, we're the ones that said you can't be evicted. You better vote for us, keep us in power. This is a power play. It always has been, it always will be. This is the game they play. Plus, a sidebar, a side note, whether they expected it or not, is they're disincentivizing people from trying. Going to work harder so I can pay my rent. Going to work harder so I can pay back my student loan. Going to work harder so that I can buy that new car, or going to work harder so I can get that house on my own. They're disincentivizing people from doing what human nature is, which is striving to win, to do better, to better themselves, to be more productive. They're literally taking that drive away by saying, why work hard, man? I'll give you more money to stay home. Why scrape together money for rent? No rent this month. Don't worry about it. Why try to go to work in that field that you chose and make a bunch of money so you can pay back your student loan? Got your student loan. We're good. That's not okay. That's not human nature. It is big government nature. By the way, when Biden decided that he would extend the moratorium on paying rent illegally against the Supreme Court ruling, he pulled what Obama pulled with DACA. Deferred adjudication for childhood arrivals, DACA. That's where people under a certain age came illegally into the country, and they would not be adjudicated. They would not have to face a judge. As long as they paid a fee, we'll look the other way. You can now go and compete against Americans for jobs. Obama said that he thought that it was probably illegal, thought that he probably couldn't do it. Did it anyway. So now you've got the second tyranny in the past, 12 years, whatever. You've got the second tyranny that we face in this country. Those who are calling Trump a tyrant or a fascist knew that they were only giving cover to people like Obama and Biden. Obama said, I've got a pen and a cell phone. I don't need Congress. He said that. And he did it through executive order. He did all sorts of crap that you're not allowed to do that was illegal. And DACA is wholly and solely illegal. Biden's now doing the same thing when it comes to this rent and foreclosure moratorium. He's doing the same thing. I know there are checks and balances, and I know that the Supreme Court ruled one way, but screw it. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And that's what they're doing. So your thoughts on signing a piece of paper, promising to pay something back. I mean, I've got car payments. Do I not have to pay my car payment anymore? Really? I don't feel like it. Will the government pay my car off? If not, why not? And if they do get rid of student debt, what about those who have all paid their student debt back? Do they get that money back? If so, where does it come from? And this whole moratorium on rent. Dude, I mean, it's been a year and a half. And people are, generally speaking, back to work or figuring out how to make money from home. Landlord deserves his or her rent. It's not asking a lot. That's not somehow holding or oppressing people, holding people down. This is simply saying, look, stand up and take care of the responsibility that you agreed to. Your thoughts, 1-800-501-7080, 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. Keep it right here. All right, glad to have you. It is the weekend with Joe Pags, about 12, 13 minutes away from Matt Gaetz coming on the program, District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. He's got a lot to say. The firebrand himself will be on. That's the name of the book. That's the name of the vodcast. And he actually goes right through the accusations and allegations against him in his first podcast that he put together called Firebrand. Go check it out on Rumble, or you can find it on YouTube as well. 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. One of the people pushing for this rent moratorium is Cori Bush, who's a U.S. representative. Cori Bush is a hypocrite. She's an anti-police person. She's a racist, and yet somehow she's in Congress. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Before we let you go, let me ask you about something else aside from the moratorium.
She did this. She, along with AOC and a few others, showed up for a photo op about the moratorium. This is her being interviewed on CBS about her hypocrisy when it comes to defunding the police and how much she spends on personal security.
You faced some criticism in recent weeks over your push to defund the police. Campaign records show that you spent roughly $70,000 on private security, and some critics say that move is hypocritical. What's your response to those critics?
They would rather I die. You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die?
What is she talking about? What the beep is she talking about? She'll die without $70,000 in personal security? Well, let me ask you a question. If you're watching or listening, are you getting $70,000? Are you paying $70,000 for personal security? And of course, it's a rhetorical question. Of course you're not. Of course I'm not. So are we dying because we don't have that personal security?
You know, because that could be the alternative. So either I spent $70,000 on private security over the last few months, and I'm here standing now and able to speak, able to help save 11 million people from being evicted, or I could possibly have a death attempt on my life. And we're also talking about the same exact people who say horrible things about me, who lie to build up their base. And then because they lie about me, I receive death threats. Now, they don't address the fact that I receive death threats after they go on air and say horrible things about me. But then they want to say, oh, but she needs private security. I have private security because my body is worth being on this planet right now.
What is wrong with this woman? Yeah, I got to tell you something, and this is not something to talk about much on the air because it causes other people to do it, but I've gotten death threats for years because I dare tell the truth and I dare have a political leaning that leans right. I get death threats all the time. I was on with Larry King back in like 2008 on his show on CNN. And after the show, I got an email from a guy who said he's going to find me and he's going to shoot me in the head in front of my family. He wants them to see me die. I did not hire private security. I did not spend $70,000 over a few months. Cori Bush thinks that she deserves it. She thinks that she's a queen. She thinks she's above you. You know, if she weren't out there talking about defund the police, maybe she would realize the police are there to protect her. She's a member of Congress. They've got Capitol Police that protect them every day. Good guys with guns protect her every day as she speaks out against police and wants to defund the police. And then she goes out and hires $70,000 worth of security over the past few months. There's something wrong with her. And she's the one who's out there leading the push to continue the moratorium on evictions. Come on, man. There's something so disconnected in our government right now. It makes my face hurt. It just does. Let me go to the phone lines. I appreciate you taking the time. All right, let's go to Kevin. Kevin looks like an interesting one. We talked about vaccines last hour. Kevin has a comment on that. What's on your mind? Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. I just had a question as far as you...
Make sure you keep your voice up. The Bluetooth isn't easy to hear, so keep your voice up for me. Go ahead.
Okay. I just had a question about where you got the information that Biden and the vice president said they wouldn't take Trump's vaccine. I've never heard that. I've never seen it. I just wonder where you got that information.
I got it from watching them say it. There's a viral video going around showing several Democrats talking about not taking the vaccine. In fact, Biden says, "You taking the vaccine?" I'm sorry. I was speaking, Kevin. Being passive aggressive with me doesn't work. Hold on. All right. So it's got Biden literally saying, "You taking the vaccine? Are you going to take it? Are you going to take it?" And it has Kamala Harris saying these words. This is a paraphrase, but this is exactly what she said. She said, a vaccine, I got to make sure that we've got all sorts of sources showing its validity. If it's a vaccine from Trump, I'm not taking that vaccine. It has her literally saying that. So I don't need to fact check myself. I've never said anything on the radio that I can't back up. I can't give you a link as you're driving down the road in Kentucky, but it sounds like you have technical abilities. Look it up when you get home. And after you find out that the video not only exists, it is much more extensive than I even said, go to my website, joepags.com, write me an email, and apologize for suggesting that I made it up. All right?
Sure, I'll do that when I find it.
Okay, cool. Open line now, 1-800-501-7080, 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. It is so easy to catch me in a lie if I'm making it up. It is so easy to say, oh, this guy's making that crap up. Let me go and prove him wrong. But he wants me to fact check myself as he's driving down the road in Kentucky because he doesn't believe that what I said is true. And being passive aggressive never works on me. It just doesn't. It's a lame way to try to win an argument. He had no chance of winning an argument because Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and several other high-profile Democrats were all suggesting or even flat out saying, I won't take the Trump vaccine. The vaccine from Trump, I'm not going to trust that. But for some reason, he thought I got him. I caught the talk show host. There are people who actually live their lives trying to catch people on the radio saying something wrong. Fact check me all you want. I triple dog dare you. When we come back, it'll be Matt Gaetz. Stay right here.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags.
Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Always great to have District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. It's Matt Gaetz. Matt, how are you?
Great to be on with you, Joe.
You know, if I took big academia, big social media, big tech, big media, big Hollywood, big music, big sports, word for it, we would be doing this conversation with you like in prison. Are you in prison right now? I mean, they just let you talk to me for a few minutes?
Hey, nothing feels less like prison than the state of Florida, where we enjoy freedom at its zenith. No, 4 months ago, horrible lies were spread about me, and I'm fighting back. There's not a single woman who's accused me of any wrongdoing. That puts me in a different category than Joe Biden, certainly. But if you believe these forces and big government, big media, big tech, I was ruined. You know why? A lot of Republicans, they just give up when people say bad stuff about them. But I saw Devin Nunes fight through it when they tried to start criminal prosecutions of him for telling Trump that Trump had been spied on by his own government. I saw them try to ruin Jim Jordan's life with 8 accusers who all got paid like $250,000 from Ohio State eventually, but who certainly didn't implicate Jim Jordan in any direct wrongdoing. So I guess it's my turn in the barrel. But just like the fighters, I admire Nunes and Jordan. I punch back.
It's Matt Gaetz. Firebrand is the name of the book. It's also the name of his new podcast. I watched the entire podcast. It was masterful. You laid out the case for why you were being witch hunted, exact from start to finish. I could not have done it better in a court of law. And it seems to me that that's unique, Matt. Most people won't sit down and say, let's go over the allegations. Let's go over what really happened. Let's go over what we know, what we don't know. I wasn't on this website. I've never done anything with underage women. The people who are accusing me, where are they? The website itself says he's never had an account. You go down the list of who this scumbag was that showed up on Chris Cuomo's show for some reason to implicate himself into what he was actually trying to do to you. What was the thought processing going there? And by the way, you can check out Firebrand on YouTube. You can check it out on Rumble. I watched it on Rumble. I prefer that website. But what was the impetus what told you inside, I should just go down the list and just completely ruin these people. Most people would have shut up and just moved on.
Well, I care a lot about the work I'm doing in Congress, and my concern was that the process was going to be the punishment, that the media and the left would try to smear my good name with these horrendous allegations, and then I wouldn't be able to fight for the military members who don't want forced vaccines, for the small businesses who don't want lockdowns, for the parents who don't want to see critical race theory shoved down the throat of their children. There are important fights going on in the Congress today. I want to be in those fights on behalf of my people, the folks who sent me here, and that's why I'm not going to let CNN dictate the truth as to my life, when really they're just trying to propagandize against anyone who doesn't particularly hold their view. And by the way, thank God Project Veritas exists. I think James O'Keefe is the greatest leprechaun I have ever met. They got a CNN director admitting that they were repeating lies about me because I'm effective. And when that was exposed, did they take the CNN lies down? No, they took James O'Keefe off of Twitter. So it shows the headwinds we face. But you know what? That's why platforms like yours are so important. You're not owned by big pharma. You're not owned by big government or big tech. You get out and tell the truth, and a lot of people really enjoy that. And then they are able to live in a free society because they are informed. Our movement demands informed people who are ready to engage and be active. And one of the issues we've talked about a lot on this show that I continue to fight for is election integrity. And increasingly, if you even want to talk about election integrity, it's like verboten. It's like mentioning Voldemort to suggest that maybe we ought to have voter ID, or we ought to have systems that ensure that people requesting ballots actually exist before that they are counted and polluted in an election system.
I urge you to go and check him out. It's District 1 Republican in the great state of Florida, Matt Gaetz. The podcast is called Firebrand. The first one was out of the box with like gangbusters. It was amazing. I really loved how you were also self-deprecating. There was one piece of video that you tossed to. You said, and here I am, obviously much heavier. What are you doing, Matt? So I found it to be really, really great. I found it to be very real. I found you to be very accessible. And again, the way that you dismantled their case was masterful. Then the conversation with Marjorie Taylor Greene, another friend of ours, was really wonderful as well. Let's talk about vaccine passports for a second, if you don't mind. I just got back from New York. As you know, I live in Texas. We're free in Texas, almost as free as Florida. It took Abbott a little bit longer than it did DeSantis, but we're pretty free here. In New York City, de Blasio, who my friend Curtis Lewa calls the pot-smoking mayor, has decided that if you want to go to a gym, if you want to go to a restaurant, if you want to go to an event that's indoors, you must prove that you've been vaccinated. Now, this is the same party, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't believe blacks and Hispanics know how to get a voter ID, a government-issued ID that could be free if you can't afford it. They don't know how to do that, but now blacks are 33% of those who have been vaccinated, by the way. You can't go to the gym, the restaurant, or an event if you don't have a vaccination ID or some sort of a passport. I mean, is it me, or is this just a little bit hypocritical?
Well, I'm not going to do this, but I was tempted to introduce a bill in Congress to require vaccine passports to vote. I mean, that would make the left's head totally explode, right?
I dare you. That'd be great.
Passport. But then they're against the vote, the voter integrity that we need. So, I think that it shows that this isn't really about health. It's about control. Yeah. And once government entities believe they have the power to control the decisions we make, they don't want to give that back. I don't want to live in a world where Americans are treated differently based on the personal health choices they make. And by the way, the people that would ban gyms are abjectly stupid. Obesity is the principal comorbidity that leads to acute health outcomes in coronavirus. That was one thing that DeSantis always understood here in Florida. We actually want people out and about doing healthy things, making their own bodies more resilient to coronavirus, and not just relying on the next shifting government edict from the CDC, an entity that seems to be competing with CNN for the least credible in America.
It is Matt Gaetz, District 1 Republican in the great state of Florida. Make sure you go and check out his podcast called Firebrand. Get his book also called Firebrand. Jen Psaki just today, or it might have been late yesterday, I think it was today, said that the administration is considering whether we should also require these passports to get on planes. Again, this is simply about power and control, right? Because I'm not sure I understand. We never had to prove that we had the flu vaccine. Matt, I've never gotten a flu vaccine. I'm a reasonably healthy guy. I work out pretty strong. I don't have any other comorbidities. Why should I have to prove to somebody that I'm protecting myself? Is it the government's job to protect me from me?
Well, I mean, how can you not evaluate this debate and not look at the power that Big Pharma has over big media and over politicians, right? I mean, you look at your favorite news show, your least favorite news show, they're both riddled with ads from pharma, and that affects the news coverage. It just does. And Big Pharma also has multiple lobbyists for every member of the United States Senate and the United States Congress. And so they are trying to create a truth that develops reliance on them. Now, I'm not anti-vaccine. If people want to go get the vaccine, I don't think they should be judged. I don't think they should be treated differently.
Right.
For folks like my parents, it was the right decision. But to see other folks deprived access to air travel and increasingly deprived of the ability to serve in our military. I know people right now who are leaving military service because their spouses will not allow them to take a vaccine, even if those very spouses allowed them to go on 8 deployments to Afghanistan. So I'm concerned that a number of institutions in society, whether it is the digital world, whether it is the military world, whether it is air travel, they have been gaslit by the elites who are owned by Big Pharma to try to convince us that every single person needs exactly the prescription that Jen Psaki would deem appropriate, or even worse, Dr. Fauci.
Exactly right. The book is Firebrand. The podcast is Firebrand. He is the Firebrand. It's Matt Gaetz. Let's talk about the Department of Justice. And because I'm confused about what the Department of Justice is supposed to do. I thought the Attorney General was the top cop, the top law enforcement officer in the United States. Under Barack Obama, we learned that Eric Holder is really just his wingman. And he's just going to back Barack Obama up however he wants to. And that the president can tell the attorney general, just don't enforce those laws. And look the other way in DACA. And don't worry about the intimidation that happened by the Black Panthers in Philadelphia in 2008 during the election. Just ignore all that stuff because racism, because slavery, because whatever reason you want to come up with. In Ferguson, okay, so the cop didn't do anything wrong in the shooting of Michael Brown. That was righteous. But let's deem the entire police force to be racist in Ferguson, Missouri. So we learned that it's really politicized. It shouldn't be. But now that we're finding people who are willing to tell the truth, Matt, those people are finding out from the DOJ that they're going to be dragged in front of some committee somewhere and they're going to be held to task because they're telling the truth. Is that the way it's supposed to work?
Right now, the left-wing media is going crazy because there were people at the Justice Department who actually thought they should have been more proactive at protecting our elections, that we should have been in stronger communication with states that saw instances of fraud that we seem to learn more and more about every day, especially in Fulton County, Georgia, and I would say probably very soon in Wayne County, Michigan as well. And so when people stepped forward and said, hey, Mr. President, we've got a plan to try to pursue these violations of federal law with great vigor, then you had the establishment types at DOJ like Jeffrey Rosen, previously Bill Barr, who really wanted to hear none of that. I think they were more interested in their future career prospects than they were the integrity of our elections. And I've got a little nugget that a lot of people don't know. The number one issue for Jeffrey Rosen when he was acting attorney general was whether or not he was going to get a portrait of himself as AG. He repeatedly lobbied the White House for the ability to have a portrait made of himself.
Stop it.
That seems to be less important to me than protecting the integrity of the vote.
Come on, Matt. He was worried. Am I going to get a portrait because I'm acting? That's really what he was.
He wanted to make sure that even in his acting capacity, there would in fact be a portrait. Thank God the head of the civil division was Mr. Clark, who believed that there was a basis for more vigorous investigation of potential election fraud. Now, I think that should have animated the Georgia legislature and the Pennsylvania and Michigan legislatures to take action. But now they're trying to make people who had that, I think, very proactive approach somehow the threats to democracy. And so I think we've got to watch very closely what House Democrats are planning in the coming weeks as they bring in former Justice Department officials and try to shame people who were proactive on oversight and then who tried to canonize those who stood in the way of a review of an election that I think was one of the most bizarre in American history. Regardless of how you feel about the election, it was the first time that the mailbox beat the ballot box, where these millions of mailed out ballots without a direct connection to a human being attending to vote them really made the difference.
It sounds like a softball, Matt. It's not. This is a real question because I had Mike Lindell on my show. I dared have Rudy Giuliani on the show. I dared have Jenna Ellis on the show. I dared have you and Marjorie on the show. I've been demonetized on YouTube. I was suspended from Twitter for a while. So legitimate question, are we or are we not in a free, liberated America allowed to say, hey, Was there fraud in that election? Are we allowed to even ask that question or not?
Well, remember, the same entities that make it difficult for you to ask that question and present your platform are the same entities that tried to ban our review of the Hunter Biden laptop, only to later realize there was a lot of stuff on there that voters really deserve to know before casting their ballot regarding the Biden family's foreign entanglements that could potentially compromise them. So it's beyond just one show or one claim or one election. It's about these large forces in big tech and big government trying to redefine the truth. And you see it in the election, but frankly, you also see it in legitimate scientific debate over coronavirus. I'm not a doctor. I don't think you are. We're not going to debate pathology, but I think it's fair for us to review the claims of different experts and people in the medical field and ask tough questions. I mean, we don't live in a technocracy. We live in a representative democracy. We don't live in a world in which the truth gets to be defined by the people in power. We're allowed to debate and discuss the truth. And I do think that the inability for us to process claims made by Mr. Lindell or anyone else is really reflective of a frail society, not a strong society. A strong society ought to be able to take all kinds of different claims and compare sources and review evidence without being so pearl clutching that we would say, oh, well, because you had Matt Gaetz or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Mike Lindell on your show, then we have to put you in a different category than other content creators. It's very, very dangerous. And you know what? It's more akin to what we see in China and a social credit score enforced by the government and big tech than we would expect in the United States of America.
Very well said. Firebrand is the podcast and the book. It's District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. Matt Gaetz. Matt, two last quick ones. Number one, the infrastructure bill, according to Ted Cruz, has about 86% that isn't infrastructure. It's got 14%, if that's infrastructure. The rest is all the Green New Deal. Can it be stopped? And are you finding the same thing that he found?
I am finding that this bill is extremely punitive to rural America. It's not just the imposition of the Green New Deal. It's also per mile fees that they are studying to impose on our fellow Americans. Now, if you live in the Acela corridor, a per mile fee probably doesn't affect you the same as if you live in Texas or Oklahoma or Nebraska. So that really is putting the densely populated parts of our country against the vast majority of our country. I'm also concerned that you really aren't making investments in areas of great need. President Trump understood that our roads and bridges do need repair, that we need good ways to get our goods to market because we had become so productive under President Trump. We needed a way to leverage that productivity for economic success for all Americans. And when they label something as infrastructure and then drain it away for things like government-funded child care and to fund community organizers that spun off of the Acorn movement of yesteryear, it's not only deceptive, it's an opportunity cost because we're not doing the things that we actually should be doing to be a strong, powerful country and to win the 21st century against China.
Matt, last question about the January 6th rioters or the breach, the riot. It wasn't an insurrection. That's just stupid. It's a word that I never used in my life before now, and I'm 55 now. So that word is just a buzzword to try to make it look like there was a revolution happening. There was a riot. There was a breach. People acted stupidly. Are those people who are behind bars today that we never hear from, are they getting due process?
I am increasingly concerned that they are not. Paul Gosar, Louis Gohmert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I have been sending letters to the Attorney General asking basic questions about the nature of charges and the protocols for the January 6 detainees. I'm on the Judiciary Committee, so I have a direct role in the oversight of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and they won't answer our questions. And then when we showed up at the Department of Justice, the Attorney General wouldn't meet with us. And then when we showed up to the jail, just to do what members of Congress always do, and that is tour detention facilities. I mean, Democrats did that under Trump. Republicans have done it under Biden. But for this one group, the January 6 detainees, we were told we were trespassers when we showed up and merely sought a tour. So there are more questions now than answers. The Attorney General and the Federal Bureau of Prisons will not be able to hide forever. And I just think we ought to give everybody access to exculpatory evidence. Look, if people committed violence, they ought to pay the price for that violence. They ought to be accountable for it. But we have a system where everyone's innocent until proven guilty. And one thing that might shed light on the events of January 6th is a full review of the 14 hours of footage. It's my expectation that we are going to see assets of the FBI involved in animating criminal conduct on January 6th. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that that may be the case, and I want to find it, and the best way to deal with it is to review the actual 14,000 hours of evidence.
And there's no reason that we can't see it. By the way, you can go and burn down a Target or a police station in Minneapolis and get out on no bail. Like the next day. We haven't seen these people in, 7 months, 8 months, something like that. It's kind of nuts. It doesn't feel like America. Matt Gaetz has a new podcast called Firebrand. You've got to go see. It's a vodcast. It's a video. You see him too. Go and check that out today. Get his book Firebrand. And Matt, my show is your show. Anytime you can come back on, my friend, let's do that.
Always enjoy it, Joe. Take care, my friend.
Appreciate that. We're back after this. Stay right here. Hi, glad to have you. Thanks. Really appreciate having Matt Gaetz on, District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. Kind of interesting that Matt Gaetz in this whole investigation hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been put in jail. He isn't on trial. In fact, the entire story against him is falling apart. But that's what happens when you stand up and you tell the truth. That's what happens when you stand up against those who are naysaying. Like, people always tell me, why do you respond to the naysayers? Why do you respond to the negative emails or comments you'll get on Twitter? Because I want to put them in their place and prove them absolutely wrong and ignorant. Like the guy called in from Kentucky, really ignorant liberal, called in saying that you've got to prove that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden said they wouldn't take the vaccine under Trump. Well, I've got that video queued up and that audio queued up. I'll do that after the top of the hour. We'll make sure that people do understand that we're not on here making stuff up. And if somebody does accuse you of something unrighteously, go at them. Keep it here. Much more to come.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags. Across America, it's The Weekend with Joe Pags. To talk to Joe, call 800-501-7080. And now, The Weekend. Here's Joe Pags.
Glad to have you. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Lots going on, lots to get to. In this hour, we'll have Carol Hoven. She is a lecturer from Harvard University. She's also a PhD. And she's an expert on human hormones. She's an expert on testosterone, estrogen, on what sex means in human beings, and I mean biological sex, like male or female. And we talk about competition and whether it's fair or not for somebody who's transitioning or has transitioned from male to female to go and compete against females. It's an interesting conversation because politically, she and I are not aligned. But it's still a great conversation that needs to be had. We'll get into Andrew Cuomo, what he faces in New York. I'm not sure why he hasn't resigned yet. He's got to go. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, according to allegations, is a serial sexual harasser or sexual abuser. Now, that on top of the fact that he killed a bunch of elderly people by putting COVID-19 positive patients in nursing homes in New York, this guy should not be anywhere near the governor's office. And here's the weird thing. Why is he there? I mean, he's proven to be a horrible governor. I don't know how good or bad Mario Cuomo was, his father, as governor. I don't remember. I wasn't into politics that much back then, or maybe I lived in Florida. I'm not sure. But, of course, left-wing liberal. But why does Andrew Cuomo get elected? Is it because of his name? Is that why he was elected? Is that what we're talking about here? It's very strange. It's very odd to me. But once these allegations started coming out, of course, you want due process. He then tells the Attorney General, Letitia James, hey, investigate this. She does, and I don't know what he was thinking, whether he was thinking, hey, she'll investigate it and find me exonerated, or she'll investigate it because I'm a supporter of hers. She won't find anything wrong. Well, they found 11 women to be credible in their allegations against him, and now there have been criminal charges that have been filed against Andrew Cuomo in other districts. I'm not really sure why the Attorney General did not file charges, knowing that what she has allegedly is righteous in these allegations. We'll talk about that a bit as well. The downplaying, let's get into it now. The downplaying of the Andrew Cuomo allegations is pretty sick. This is from Fox News, and the headline is one that really does grab your attention. Before I do that, I'll give you that in a second. Before we do that, let me prove that passive aggressive guy in Kentucky dead wrong, and I'll play the audio. And those of you who are watching, I'll show the video of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden many times being skeptical of or flat out saying, I'm not going to take the vaccine if it's a Trump vaccine. The guy called in from Kentucky last hour, and he was trying to fact check me on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden saying they wouldn't take the vaccine. That was their narrative. Are you going to take it? Are you going to be first in line to take it? I'm not going to take it if it's from Trump. They said it, and here's proof.
So let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
If and when the vaccine comes. And it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done.
When we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot? You're going to be the first one to say, sign me up. They now say it's okay.
And the question of whether it's real when it's there, that requires enormous transparency. You got to make all of it available to other experts across the nation so they can look and see. So there's consensus, this is a safe vaccine.
If the president announced tomorrow we have a vaccine, would you take it? Only if it was completely transparent that other experts in the country could look at it. Only if we knew all of what went into it.
If Donald Trump can't give answers and the administration can't give answers to these three questions, the American people should not have confidence.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
There you go. The now vice president literally said she's not taking it. The now president literally said, are you going to be first in line to take it? So please don't listen. Don't call the show with your lefty garbage. I have every ability and every desire to have a discussion with somebody who disagrees with me. I do. But, man, I've been doing it 32 years. Did you think that I actually put something on the show that I couldn't back up? Now, I expect you to go to joepags.com. He's still listening, by the way. joepags.com. Click on send email and then apologize to me. Just like I said on the phone. You think he's going to do it? Davey, you think he's going to email me and apologize to me?
I highly doubt it.
just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, so there you go. It's 1-800-501-7080, 1-800-501-7080. Here's a story from Fox News. Media previously downplayed sexual harassment allegations against Andrew Cuomo. New York governor now faces calls to resign over harassment scandal from media. Fellow Democrats Lindsay Cornick for Fox News wrote this. New York Attorney General Letitia James's report detailing multiple corroborated sexual harassment charges against New York Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo quickly dominated headlines and airwaves. However, the original reports of accusations did not receive nearly the same reaction from mainstream media. Since December, Cuomo has faced several harassment allegations against him by multiple women. Many media outlets also appeared initially reluctant to report on the growing controversy. Following Lindsey Boylan's original accusation in December, CNN hesitated to discuss the news until February following an essay from Boylan. In a brief mention by anchor John King, the network reported the news while also highlighting Boylan's campaign to be Manhattan Borough president. In a statement, quote, in a statement from Cuomo's office, 4 staffers who were in the flight despite Boylan's story and the governor's press secretary says her claims of inappropriate behavior are quite simply false. Boylan is running for Manhattan Borough president. She first accused the governor of sexual harassment on Twitter back in December, King said. Hey, think about that. King basically saying, I don't know if we can believe her. Because, other people on that plane say it didn't happen, and she happens to be running for borough president, which, of course, is a non sequitur. It's not connected at all. Story continues. Fellow CNN anchor Jake Tapper likewise reported on the news, telling audiences, quote, CNN has been unable to corroborate Boylan's allegations, end quote. Did they ever say that when there were allegations against Trump, we can't corroborate it? Of course, they couldn't corroborate any of those against Trump. Did CNN ever go that step with him? I don't think so. Why not? Back to the story. Networks such as ABC, CBS, and NBC neglected to promote Boylan's original claims in December. This attitude sharply contrasted with the mainstream media's reaction to sexual assault allegations against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Following Senator Dianne Feinstein's, Democrat from California, original letter requesting an investigation into the allegation in 2018, NBC reported the news on the same day, hyping a mysterious new twist about Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Other networks like CNN shortly followed suit with no less than 7 articles on the first allegation as it was made public. While attention to Kavanaugh's accusers only increased over time, attention to Cuomo's accusers remained mostly stagnant. At the time of Cuomo's 6th accuser, many media outlets avoided coverage of the scandal-ridden governor altogether. In addition, coverage of the governor's accusations continued to be comparatively far less combative and even defensive at times. ABC characterized Boylan's allegation as claiming the governor was joking, while both NBC and CBS downplayed a developing bipartisan movement against him. Cuomo's brother, CNN host Chris Cuomo, frequently ignored or downplayed the politician's actions, claiming that reporting on him would be a conflict of interest. However, he often took part in the interviews with Governor Cuomo during the pandemic in 2020, usually with a humorous tone. Chris Cuomo, who had already apologized for privately advising his brother, is in hot water again after the James Report named him as one of several trusted outside advisors to the governor who prioritized his political well-being over the state's. So let's wrap all this up. Chris Cuomo, as a so-called journalist slash anchor slash host on CNN, was giving cover to his brother, was advising his brother on these sex scandal stories that were coming out. ABC, NBC, CBS, they all basically ignored or downplayed the allegations. While at the same time you saw the false allegations against Brett Kavanaugh were treated as if they were true, with no corroboration. Woman could not give any details whatsoever, and everybody who did corroborate were on Brett Kavanaugh's side, saying this never happened. But he was dragged through the mud, treated like dirt, and they tried to throw him out. When it comes to Andrew Cuomo, these are 11 women now that the Democrat Attorney General of New York has said are credible. We believe them. Even Biden himself is saying that Cuomo should step down now. But he hasn't. Now, I predict Cuomo will resign because the Assembly, which is basically the House of Representatives in New York, the Assembly looks like it's going to draw up impeachment papers. You don't want articles of impeachment against you if you're not guilty. I mean, if you're guilty, you don't want them. If you're not guilty, then you stand up to them like Trump did twice and you win. But if you're guilty, you resign. Richard Nixon was guilty. He resigned. Now, whether there'll be a pardon for Cuomo, which could happen, or not, who knows? But there's no way this guy goes through the impeachment process and thinks he can win. There's no way. Unless he's got so much dirt against so many people in the Assembly that he thinks he can somehow get by. But this shows a true double standard in reporting, so-called reporting, in this country. We now know, and we've known this for a while, to be honest, but we now know without a shadow of a doubt, just from the lack of coverage on Andrew Cuomo and this controversy, that the media is only in the bag for the left, will tell you only what they want you to know, and they will not tell you necessarily the truth. Now, I did see an interview on CBS, I believe, with Norah O'Donnell with one of the accusers almost immediately. I found that to be refreshing, that at least we had one network that was taking it seriously now, even after downplaying it for, a year, 2 years, something like that? And one has to wonder if this is also more cover for Andrew Cuomo, who, again, put COVID-19 patients in nursing homes, which ended up killing elderly people. Your thoughts on this? Does he survive this? Will he resign? Will he be impeached? And will he wait for that process to happen? And what about your trust in the media? Do you like Chris Cuomo? Good-looking guy. I thought for a long time he did a good job on ABC. Suddenly we found out who he was. He's an arrogant, petulant child who was laughing it up with oversized Q-tips with his brother on CNN as he lied about himself having put himself into quarantine. He was found out of quarantine, as he lied when he came up out of quarantine, pretending that he was seeing his family for the first time. That was BS. Same guy that showed up naked in his wife's, live video podcast or something. Pretended he didn't know that she was doing it. There's something very wrong with these people. Does Cuomo survive it? Will he resign? Will he be impeached? He's not going to be the governor much longer. There's no way he is going to last until the next election. He's going to go one way or the other. I just wonder which way you think it's going to be. And has this solidified your distrust or mistrust of the media? 1-800-501-7080. 1-800-501-7080. JoePags.com. Stay here. Hi, great to have you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you stopping by. Lots going on, lots to get to. Bottom of the hour, it's going to be Carol Hooven. It's CarolHooven.com. Go there. She's a lecturer at Harvard. She's a PhD in biology. She's just telling the truth about hormones, just telling the truth about testosterone and estrogen. And we get into a really interesting conversation about those who are biologically male competing against female. She's not a conservative. She's somebody who probably disagrees with me on a lot. But at the end of the day, telling the truth should not be dependent at all on your leanings. It just shouldn't be. The truth should be the truth. That's fixed. It's not variable. And if you tell the truth, you should not be canceled, which is what people are trying to do to her, which is very, very odd. Let me go to the phone lines. Rick is in Connecticut about Cuomo. Rick, what do you think? Talk to me.
I don't think he's going to resign. People like that, he's been in power so long, he will never resign. He will go down swinging. Just like they burnt the country down before they would let Donald Trump get elected again, the Democrats will burn New York to the ground before he walks away.
Well, I disagree. The Democrats are against him. The vast majority of Democrats in New York want him to resign now. He doesn't have the support of the party, doesn't have the support of Biden or Harris, doesn't have the support of even the U.S. senators from New York. Both Gillibrand and Schumer want him gone. So it's not like Democrats are rallying around him.
No, I know, but think about how long it's been. This has been since December, months and months. I mean, it's taken this long. The justice works this way that long. If it was somebody else, it would work tomorrow. If I break the law today, I'm going to jail tomorrow, not in 4
no,
months.
you and I agree. No, make sure you hear me clearly. You and I agree, Rick. They really slow-rolled this investigation because the Attorney General, Letitia James, is somebody who was an ally of Cuomo. Right, they slow-rolled it, but they could not hide it because the allegations are so serious. Now everybody is turning coat because they want to save their own asses. They can't support him now.
No, that's exactly why now, because they want to save their own skin. But like I said, I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to fight it. They will have to impeach him, drag him out, kicking and screaming.
Very interesting. I hear you. You could be right. You could be right. I don't know. You could be right. I think that to save face, save family name, when he knows he's done, if he finds out, look, maybe he'll wait till they do the articles of impeachment. Maybe he'll wait till there is some hearings or the trial. Maybe. But when it looks like it's a done deal, that guy will resign before he gets impeached and removed. Now, there is some on a federal level, and this might work on a state level too, there is a provision that if the impeachment starts and you resign, you can still be impeached and found guilty. That could happen as well. But I think this guy will get strong advice from little bro Fredo and from others that he should step down. We go to Jim, who's in Florida. Jim, talk to me. Hi.
How you doing, Joe? It's PSYOP,
living the dream,
man. Just like in the military, psychological operations, man. Look over here, man, because we don't want you paying attention what 4 governors did to elderly, putting them in the nursing homes and letting them die, man. All to rig an election, man. Wake up, America.
All right, Jim, thanks. I'm not really sure how it's a PSYOP. I mean, the Department of Justice just said that they weren't going to charge these governors, so that's actually behind them. It shouldn't be, but it's behind them. So that's interesting. But okay, Jim, you say it's a PSYOP. Very good. Let me go back to the phone lines. We sort of have a running topic today about vaccines, getting vaccinations, what vaccines do and don't do. I've got a quick minute for you, Linda. What's on your mind? Come on.
Hi, Joe. I just wanted to say that I had COVID earlier this year. I am in my 80s. I had treatment in the hospital for 3 days, came home with oxygen. 6 weeks later, I'm back in tip-top shape, and I did not get the vaccine. and I will not get the vaccine. How do I get in places that require proof that you've had the vaccine? They
Well, you
don't
don't.
talk about that.
They're going to stop you. I mean, especially like if you're in New York. Linda, thank you. I'm glad that you're well. Like if you're in New York, starting, I believe it's September something, you're no longer allowed to go to a gym, indoor cafe, indoor diner, indoor restaurant, or an indoor activity unless you show proof of vaccination. I think that's wholly illegal. And the good people of New York need to sue de Blasio to stop that. Go all the way to the Supreme Court. I want the Supreme Court to make a decision as to whether I can be forced by the government to take an experimental medicine, a vaccine that does not have FDA approval. I want to know if the Supreme Court says the Constitution somehow provides my liberties and freedoms can be stopped in order to have them put a needle in my arm. That has to go to the courts now. And I hope the people of New York are strong enough and have the will to stand up against this tyranny. 1-800-501-7080, joepags.com. Go there, sign up for the newsletter, and follow all the social media. Keep it right here.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags.
Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Really glad to have this young lady on. She is a professor at Harvard University. She's a doctor as well. Her name is Carol Hooven. Doctor, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you and very nice to meet you. I just have to say one thing. I'm a lecturer at Harvard and I do have a PhD, so my students call me Dr. Hooven, but I'm not a medical doctor.
And I don't think I called you a medical doctor, but your title certainly is Dr. Carol Hooven. So we want to make sure that people go to your website, carolhooven.com. It's CarolHooven.com. The name of the book is T, The Story of Testosterone, the Hormone That Dominates and Divides Us. And Carol, I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure what it was that jumped out at me about you, but I saw you almost immediately when I saw this article or I saw an interview or something, because there's a debate going on about whether biological males, the human sex male, should be able to, because they say that they're female, and there's a whole transition thing that we could talk about if you want, but they think that they should be able to compete against the women. Now, I'll start from my own personal experience, because that's sort of what we all deal with. I'm 6'1", 252 pounds, and I lift weights. Would it be fair for me to compete against women?
So here's where I try to just maintain my stance as the objective scientist, because I actually want people to listen to me about the science without getting so hung up on the politics that they can't hear what the science has to say.
Right.
So I want to be somebody who is firm and clear about the science, and I'll leave it up to other people to decide what is fair.
Right.
Because I think when you conflate the science with a political agenda, that's where we run into trouble, and people don't know who to trust anymore for facts of how things work.
Right.
So, yeah, you're going to beat the crap out of me no matter what. You're going to beat the crap out of almost any woman in almost any sport, on average. And it's because of testosterone. It's because you went through male puberty. You're big. You have muscles. You have way more muscle than almost any woman. You have less body fat. You have more hemoglobin. You have larger body size. You have denser, stronger bones. You have more power to all those muscles. You have more lung capacity. I could go on and on. Those are all advantages that testosterone gives you in puberty. And the thing about transitioning is that those advantages, which are massive, don't all go away. In fact, when you block testosterone after a transition and start taking estrogen, you will lose some muscle mass. Your hemoglobin will tank and go down to typical female levels. But there's only, if you block testosterone for about a year, there's only around a 5% decline in muscle mass overall. Of course, you don't lose your body size, and your bone strength is largely retained.
Right.
So, and that is why somebody like Laurel Hubbard, who is a male to female trans woman, somebody who was born male, went through male puberty, could even make it into the Olympics on the female team as a weightlifter at the age of 43 years old.
Right.
Her female competitors were almost half her age. So, she had advantages that were sort of given to her by male puberty. Of course, she's practicing hard and working out and training, and she deserved to be there because the IOC rules allowed her to be there. So she wasn't breaking any rules. She wasn't cheating. Your issue should be with the IOC if you have an issue, not her. But the fact is that she still had, a large advantage over most women, but she didn't win because she's 43 years old, not at the top of her game. So yeah, there's no disputing that there is an advantage on average, and the extent of the advantage varies and it depends by sport, but that's testosterone and male puberty. Other people can decide what's fair. There is a, human rights issue. What do we do with people like Laurel Hubbard who really want to compete, and, trans kids and high school, we should be talking about the ethics and human rights, not the science. The science is clear.
I agree with you. It's Carol Hooven. It's Carol with an E, Hooven, HOOVEN.com. Get the book, T, The Story of Testosterone, the Hormone That Dominates and Divides Us. I'm a political guy, but I didn't have you on to be political. I want to be medical. I want to be biological. I want to find out exactly what it is that I think I already know. But for me, just a quick political thing, and it's not going to be a question, but I'm fine. I'm a free, liberated American. You want to be 18 years or older. You're an adult in America. You want to live however you want. You want to dress however you want. I, honest to God, don't care. I do care, however, if you're somebody who has thicker bone structure and bigger muscle bellies and a flood of testosterone through your life, that suddenly you decide that you want to go and do something athletically. Now, you can live as a woman if you'd like. You can say that you're a woman if you'd like. You can actually believe that you're a woman if you'd like, and that's fine. Again, I don't want to stop you from doing that. It really doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that suddenly you think that you now have the ability to compete against people who are also women, but they're biological women, and I think that you're taking a spot away from a woman. If we talk about the high school athletes, I'm not sure, and you're not sure, and nobody watching or listening is sure that they really are transitioning, or if they just want to get those 2 spots and beat the girls in running track. How do we decipher that, or do we have to?
So that, again, I don't know. As a scientist, I don't have any input there, but I am a mom, and I can say, and I know that you're a dad, and I can say that, this is complicated. If you have to imagine that you're a parent of a trans girl, and that's really who she is and who she wants to be, and she's really into sports, and you have to imagine how you would respond if this is a kid of yours who you loved. That being said, those issues are real, that there is a physical advantage from going through puberty. So that's all I can really say there. I understand the plight of these kids and even these adults. I don't take a political stance, but the science is totally clear here, and people shouldn't be trying to convince you otherwise. I got you. It is Carol Hooven. Get this book, T, The Story of Testosterone, the Hormone That Dominates and Divides Us. What specifically is testosterone? What specifically is estrogen? Why do I have any estrogen at all, and why do you have some testosterone? Yeah, so it's really interesting why men have estrogen and why women have testosterone. But you just asked, what is testosterone? Yeah. And so I'm in the Department of Human Evolutionary Biology, and the way I look at all this stuff is we're animals. How can we understand how we're designed, how we behave, what hormones are doing, what neurotransmitters are doing in our brains? So we are all the products of evolution. And I know not everyone believes in evolution, but obviously I do as a scientist in this department. And if you think about what evolution's goal is, it's to shape animals to maximize reproduction. So whatever it is that works for that is what we kind of inherited in our genes. So testosterone is a reproductive hormone. It helps male animals do whatever they need to do to maximize reproduction. So for many, many male animals, they can maximize reproduction by competing for females, competing for mates, having more mates on average than females. Right. Females need to have energy because female mammals are the ones who have to grow the baby in their own body. We have to use energy from the environment that we convert into offspring, basically. We're all converting energy into offspring. You guys are doing it with the help of testosterone that, of course, helps guide the development of your reproductive structures, your reproductive functions, penis, testicles, all that. Right. Sperm, which is really important, but also large body size and increased muscle mass. That is for physical competition because historically that, and even in a lot of places still today, that is what helps men compete for status, get resources that can make them more attractive to females to get more mates. We need more fat. So estrogen helps to convert the energy that we take in into fat because we are designed to grow the babies, to feed the babies with our bodies. So we need a lot of energy to do that. We have to draw on stored energy. So estrogen converts more of that energy into fat and less muscle in females, and that's to promote reproduction. And males, testosterone converts more of that energy into muscle for male competition. But at the same time, why would you be designed to have a large body size and a lot of muscles if there's nothing in your brain that makes you different from females?
Right.
That's telling you to use that stuff. Use your sperm, use your penis, use your muscles. And that's what testosterone does in utero and in puberty and in adulthood. It coordinates all that physical stuff with mental and psychological stuff. And so that's why males look and behave overall differently from females. And there's something about estrogen that can coordinate our bodies. You know, we have breasts and more body fat with a tendency to be more nurturing.
Right.
And it's just well documented. And in my book, I go through all the evidence in kind of a way that I'm talking to you now, in a way that's I think accessible, but you know, I'm not talking down to anybody. And
well, it's easy to understand, which is great.
Yeah, so that's what sex hormones do. That's what estrogen and testosterone do. And estrogen is actually what is mainly responsible for growing bones in males and females.
Oh,
so
okay.
We all have an enzyme that can, so all estrogen comes from testosterone. If you don't have testosterone, you don't have estrogen. You need this enzyme aromatase, and you make it in your fat. So women have more fat, and we produce more estrogen in our ovaries, but you produce a lot of testosterone. A lot of that is converted into estrogen, and that helps your bones to grow and maintain bone strength. What testosterone is doing in females is not that well understood. There are females who really don't have much at all, and they seem to be perfectly fine.
It is Carol Hooven, Dr. Carol Hooven. You are a PhD. You're a lecturer at Harvard. You've been getting some pushback from a colleague, at least one colleague that I know of. By the way, it's carolhooven.com. Go there. It's Carol with an E. Hooven is HOOVEN.com. The name of the book is T, the Story of Testosterone, the hormone that dominates and divides us. Before I ask you about the colleague, congratulations, doctor. You're the first person who's ever told me to use my body parts. You actually said, use your testicles, use your, which is actually kind of neat because we've never had that happen in 32 years in broadcasting. But having said that, what about colleagues going after you? Is that purely political? Is that something else that's going on? Because what you've just said to me, and I don't think that you and I are politically aligned, we don't have to be, but what you just said to me is fact. What you just said to me is understandable. What you just said to me has educated my audience and has educated me. What's the problem?
Sorry. I don't know, some of your listeners might have heard me on Joe Rogan, and I cried about 1 million times on Joe Rogan, and I'm tearing up now because of what you just said. You seem like a good guy. You're a family man, and I know we're not politically aligned, but it means a lot to hear you say that we can have a conversation, we can respect each other and hear each other, even though we're not politically aligned.
Right.
That means a lot to me because what's happening to me within my own department, this is just all kind of happening now, and it's hard. I don't really want to hurt anybody by talking anyone can go on Twitter and see what happened.
Yeah, it's out there, yeah.
Newspapers all over the world now. I went on Fox News and I defended the science of male and female, and that there are two sexes, and that it has to do with the kind of gametes that we produce, whether this is just how it is in the animal kingdom. This is how it is across organisms. Sex isn't, like turtles don't even have sex chromosomes. So they respond to the temperature and their sex development. So they become male and female dependent on the temperature. Wow. But it's still about gametes. One's going to produce big gametes like eggs, and one's going to produce small gametes like sperm. That is sex. And, my son is, I don't think, producing his gametes yet, but he's still a male, right? So it's the design plan for gametes. So I went on Fox News and said this, and I said, it's not what you feel, it's what you are in your body. And that doesn't prevent us from from accepting, promoting, supporting the rights of any kind of transgender person or non-binary or any kind of gender identity. I'm 100% in favor of supporting, people with these differences and even fighting for their all kinds of rights. Right. However, I'm not in favor of sacrificing scientific accuracy to do that. And I will not do it. And nobody's going to bully me into doing it. And I feel like that is what is happening to me. And I said on Fox News when I just said, there are these two sexes. That's how it works. People are getting confused because people are being, like, professors and scientists are being sort of bullied and shamed into pretending that that's not real and saying something different.
Right.
This isn't good for science. It's not good for us as Americans. We don't know who to trust anymore. We're getting increasingly divided. So I'm going to stick to the facts, and I want to be one person here and I know there are others who are reliable sources of the facts. We can do that and still care about all kinds of people. And so the thing that happened is, I said this on Fox News, a graduate student in my department was extremely critical on Twitter, and she represented herself as because she is the director of our department's diversity and inclusion task force, but it's not like a official college position, really. It's this group within the department. Right. And so that just went viral, and it's difficult. I don't have tenure. I'm like a permanent lecturer. That's because I've devoted myself to teaching rather than research, because I love my students and I love teaching. So, I don't have that job security, and here's someone trying to get me to change what I'm saying and what I believe, but not based on reason and logic and discussion, based on sort of intimidation, even though it's not just one person now, there's a few. But I think we all, if we can, have to stand up to that. Yeah. And I've gotten a lot of support from people all over the world, a lot of conservatives, and
well, it's because you're basing it in fact. Science isn't diverse. Science is fact. Math isn't diverse. Math is fact. We actually live in a time where we're supposed to think that there's diversity in math and science, and fixed things are all variable, and variable things are all fixed. It's very, very strange. This is why I like this discussion. I don't know if you saw my interview with Caitlyn Jenner, but it was a really long interview. And the first 10 or 12 minutes was me talking to Caitlyn Jenner saying, what the hell happened to Bruce? I grew up thinking Bruce Jenner was the alpha male. Why are we here? And it was a great, really good discussion where she and I disagree on making transitions, because I believe in biology, although I completely respect what this human being has done, and then gave another 45 minutes to why she should be the governor. I mean, why can't we have discussions like that? Why is there a Department of Diversity trying to shut down real science? I guess if you don't mind, maybe just give me a quick answer on that. We do have to go, and I want people to go and get the book, The Story of Testosterone, the Hormone That Dominates and Divides Us. This is Carol Hooven. She wrote the book. But why do we have to be diverse in every aspect of life when some things are fixed?
Yeah, it's first of all, there's a lot of status signaling that is going on about, virtue signaling, that you're a caring, good person if you hold these particular points of view, right, and you're a bad person if you hold other points of view. Instead of engaging with the evidence, there's just the character assassination. But I think people also think they're doing the right thing to support minority groups. And I think this isn't the right way to support minority groups. So we disagree strongly.
We can do both. I think that you've proven that. You can know the facts, you can, and then be outwardly supportive of everybody and everything and every human, aspect of what we do. I appreciate you coming on. Doctor, can we do it again?
I would love to. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. CarolHooven.com. Her name has an E at the end of Carol. Go and get her book, T, The Story of Testosterone, the Hormone That Dominates and Divides Us. And we're back right after this. Stay here. Mike, great to have you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you stopping by. It's CarolHooven.com. CarolHooven.com. Go there and just go and see what she says. As she said, we're not politically aligned, but we don't have to be to have a good conversation based on fact. Couple of calls on vaccines. Let me see who I can get in here. Christy, Florida, talk to me. Hi.
Hey, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm a mail carrier. I had to take it off of Bluetooth.
It's okay.
I think it is laughably hypocritical that the state of New York, who less than a year ago, when the Trump, quote-unquote, vaccine was being rolled out to the states, refused to even let it come over their state lines, but are now the first one to require the same vaccine to be put in the arms of their citizens to roam freely throughout the city.
Well, I think there's nothing but hypocrisy when it comes to what the left is doing policy-wise when it comes to vaccines. There's hypocrisy from start to finish, and they're not going to stop until people stand up and say, we're going to challenge this now. We're going to take you to court. This is not okay. One last quick one. Gene, got to go fast. Let's go.
Hey, I'm out in Nevada. Hey, I just wanted to give you a thumbs up on the rolling out of the Great Slacker Society, but I think it's going to blow up in the face of Dems. I think taking slackers who are always looking to be on the welfare rolls or the welfare state, they're always going to have their vote. But I think the preponderance of Americans are going to resent every overture that they make to provide free everything throughout the economy. I think Americans are seeing right through that, and I don't think that Democrats are going to get a lot politically out of what they're attempting to do.
I think you're absolutely right, because human beings want to succeed. Human beings believe in drive, desire, and ambition, and achieving something, accomplishing something. Taking that away is not going to make Americans who believe in freedom and liberty very happy. Appreciate that. Got to get out of here. I appreciate you spending 3 hours with us. That's Damien. I'm Joe Pags. We'll see you next week. I'll talk to you Monday, 6 p.m. Find my show. Bye.
This is The Weekend with Joe Pags.
Stella Rosa Royale is always invited to the neighborhood potluck and the backyard barbecue and Sunday dinner with the family. That's because Stella Rosa Royale has a bold, semi-sweet red berry flavor and more alcohol than other Stella Rosa wines. That pairs well with any food. So grab a seat next to Stella Rosa Royale. Food's best friend, best served chilled.
Celebrate Stella Rosa.
Celebrate responsibly.